I'm now turning my attention to making the tenders. Whenever I build a tender locomotive, I build the tender at the same time as the locomotive. That way, if there are any ride height adjustments or detail adjustments necessary, there's not the encumbrance of loads and loads of fine detail on. In the case of the DJH A2, this is a white metal set of frames, 2 frames and a sub base. What I've done is solder one frame, in this case this one, to the subframe all in one go, and trapped the first pair of wheels, the first axle, by just tack soldering in one tiny place there. I'm now going to put the rest of the wheels in. It is very important, because this is a live chassis, that means to say the return is via one side. Although these wheels are insulated, it's very, very easy to have a situation whereby you get a short circuit. So the trick is to use a small Romford, Pico, several firms make them, fibre washer, put that over the end of the axle, so that if at all this face of the wheel at the point of the axle touches the frames, there won't be a short circuit. It shouldn't touch, but you never know. Now obviously they all have to be on the same side. In this case, the side that I'm fixing on, not the side that I fixed on, that's the side that's insulated. So just pop the wheel in. You need to just spring the chassis slightly. What I'm going to do next is just another little tack. So there's less of a risk of it falling apart. Just touch it with the iron. You don't want a perfect joint at this stage. There seems to be plenty of movement. We should now be able to do the other 2 wheels without too much fear. The trick is going to be making sure that everything is level. Now my bench is pretty level, and in the move I succeeded in breaking my mirror, so I'm going to rely on the bench for this bit, but that seems to be okay. Again, checking all the time that you've got the wheels on the right way round. There's nothing worse than getting that odd short circuit. Those wheels have popped out, bound to happen. There we go. Now just make sure that it's got a rock on at the moment. You can actually twist these things. They will really go. It's a bit unscientific, but now it's still got this rock on it, so what I'm going to do is just go back with the iron on that first joint. There's something that's happened. I've burnt a hole. That's having the iron too hot. Never mind, we can repair that, and I'll show you how. I'll turn the iron down a little bit. Fortunately, that won't show. That's better. We've got that tight bit again at the back. Just tease it out ever so slightly. That's right. Now we can secure that in. Return to the joints just to make sure. Obviously don't dwell too long with the iron, as I foolishly managed to here. However, solder does make an excellent repair material. And just sort of blob it back on. Don't dwell too long. And hey presto, you can make good the damage that you've done. That will be dressed back later. Just check, just the tiniest hint of a twist, that's eradicated it. Check the wheels run freely. If you've got a little tight spot, you can actually do it with your thumb, and that's fine. Tiny bit more that side. All whizzing well, nice and level. The buffer beam can be soldered in to that slot, and the drag beam can be soldered into that one. But the basic chassis is now square and even and true. Really is a puzzle, I assure you, and things like melting the castings are everyday hazards, but that's the easiest way to do that. I've assembled both sets of main frames and taken them slightly further. In the case of the DJ8 set of frames, the brakes have been soldered in place, they're etchings. I've also put the drag box on and the buffer beam. That, by the way, is for my Spratt & Winkle type of coupling. But that's basically now the correct shape, and brake rigging still has to be fixed. In the case of the Alan Gibson chassis, that's now fully assembled. The wheels are in place, and I've put the stretchers, the cross stretchers in for the brake, and again the rigging has to go on that. Both tenders share some similarities in construction, but they differ. I hope you can see here that the DJH one, all the framing is part of a cast metal subassembly, and the footplate is a substantial etching. These are cast metal lumps, for want of a better word, with an 8BA little nut soldered into them, and then that's tapped. And the idea of that is you then screw that into position on that. The Alan Gibson one has a similar idea, although the frames here are part of the etchings and will need detail like axle boxes fixing on, and I've just soldered two 8BA nuts on there, and that then slots onto there, and they're both held together very sensibly by two sets of 8BA screws into the 8BA nuts.